Hi, I'm Will Paxton. I'm the Head of Education Policy and Advocacy at Save the Children UK in London. And Save the Children have done a lot of work on inequality generally. I personally have done quite a lot of work on educational inequality. So my sort of take on where the debate is on education at the moment is there's quite a lot of agreement about learning and quality being something that should be more important in the future, in particular as part of the post-2015 framework, but less agreement about inequality and what types of inequality matter. I think there's a big opportunity here for the education world because education goes to the heart of equality of opportunity, which is something that intuitively almost everyone agrees with, from whatever political persuasion and background. So there's a big opportunity here. But we have to be really quite ambitious when we're talking about education and equality. So a lot of the debate at the moment is focused on getting all children, all girls, the poorest children, most disadvantaged children, up to a certain threshold, if you like. So the one that most people have talked about is getting to the end of primary school, having mastered the basics, with literacy and numeracy being particularly important. Now that's absolutely right, and there needs to be a lot of focus on that, but I think we need to be more ambitious than that. And greater ambition would mean then having some account of equality of opportunity above that threshold. So what are the relative chances of different groups getting to the end of secondary or even going beyond that to further education? So if you had an overall approach which had all children achieving the threshold of mastering the basics by the end of primary and then fair chances above that threshold, then that I think could be a very powerful and ambitious framework. In terms of kind of turning that into targets, there's a lot of debate at the moment about setting 2030 objectives, which seems miles away into the future. One option to bring a real focus onto the most disadvantaged would be to have some kind of stepping stone objectives or targets, which you set for, say, 5 years, 10 years' time, which were particularly focused on the most disadvantaged groups. So you could take the poorest people in rural regions and say that in 5 or 10 years you're going to see an X percentage improvement in not only their enrolment but how well they're then learning by the end of primary. So there's a big opportunity here. Final thing I would say, which is important for DFID and people working for DFID, is that at the moment there's a lot of debate at the international level and all these global forums and conferences and so on about the what. So what do we care about? What inequalities do we care about? What learning outcomes do we care about? And they're obviously really important questions, but in a way we haven't yet got to the most difficult question, which is the how. How do we do anything about this? So how, if you want fairer educational opportunities, do you ensure that at a country level? What are the big policy changes that you need to see? I think at the global level that's going to be the debate, probably starting later this year, next year. But many people in DFID, working for DFID around the world, will already know a lot about this. So there's a big opportunity for DFID to contribute to that question. How do you ensure the improved educational outcomes, particularly for the most disadvantaged?